The stars shimmer high above the sea, their soft silver glow dancing upon the calm waters. A warm breeze drifts over the land, carrying with it the distant echoes of stories whispered through time. Tales of mighty gods, daring heroes, and celestial wonders, passed from one generation to the next. These stories, woven into the fabric of the ancient world, shaped the beliefs of a civilization that once flourished under the Mediterranean sun. Tonight, you embark on a journey into the timeless myths of ancient Greece, where gods ruled the heavens, the earth, and the underworld. Their names have echoed through the ages: Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, Athena, Artemis, Apollo, each wielding unimaginable power, each shaping the fate of mortals and the very balance of the cosmos. Above the world, the great halls of Olympus rise above the clouds, a realm of divine splendor where the gods feast, scheme, and watch over humanity. Close your eyes and imagine a time when the world was young and untamed, when mountains had yet to be conquered, and the vast seas were still unknown to mortals. The lands stretched wild and unbroken, filled with ancient forests where nymphs danced beneath moonlit canopies, and mighty rivers where the gods of the waters whispered their secrets. Imagine standing beneath the vast sky, gazing up at the constellations, the same stars the ancients once looked upon, seeing in them the great deeds of their gods and heroes. Picture Zeus, the great ruler of Olympus, his presence commanding the skies, his mighty thunderbolt shaking the heavens. Imagine Poseidon, his trident stirring the depths of the ocean, causing great waves to rise and fall with the rhythm of his temper. And below the earth, in the shadowed realm of the underworld, Hades waits in his silent domain, watching over the souls of the departed, keeping the balance between life and death. Feel the flickering warmth of the first flame as Prometheus gifts fire to humanity, defying the gods to bring light to mortals. Hear the sorrowful notes of Orpheus's lyre as he walks through the darkened halls of the underworld, seeking to reclaim his lost love from the grasp of fate. And, as the winds shift, sense the turning of the seasons, dictated by the steps of Persephone, as she moves between the realm of the living and the dead, her presence bringing both abundance and winter's stillness. Each myth is a window into a world of wonder, mystery, and meaning, a world where mortals and immortals intertwine, where the elements are alive with divine energy, and where fate weaves its eternal tapestry. These are not just stories. They are fragments of history, wisdom, and imagination, passed down from the poets and storytellers of ancient Greece, their voices still lingering in the winds that sweep across the ruins of their once great temples. Tonight, let the echoes of the past guide you into sleep, as the myths of Olympus unfold before you. Drift into the realm of the gods, where history and legend blend into dreams, and the voices of the ancients carry you into a world of divine beauty, power, and mystery. Chapter 1. The Creation of the World and the Titans. Before the gods of Olympus ruled the heavens and before mortals walked the earth, there was only chaos, a vast, formless void that stretched across existence, silent and unending. It was neither light nor dark, neither warm nor cold, but an infinite abyss of nothingness, waiting for creation to begin. From this great emptiness, the first primordial beings emerged. Gaia, the earth, took shape, her form stretching across the void, lush and full of life. Beside her came Uranus, the sky, who wrapped himself around her, shielding the land with his vast, starry expanse. Their union brought forth mountains and rivers, valleys and forests, and from them the world as we know it was born. But Gaia and Uranus were not alone. Other primordial forces came into existence. Nyx, the goddess of the night, cloaked the heavens in darkness. Hemera, the goddess of day, followed behind her, bringing light to the world. Tartarus, the abyss, took its place deep beneath the earth, becoming the prison for all that was monstrous and terrible. And high above them all, Erebus, the very embodiment of shadow, stretched across the sky. Yet, even as the cosmos began to take shape, it was still wild and untamed. There were no rulers, no laws, only raw, unchecked power. And so, Gaia and Uranus brought forth a new generation, the mighty Titans, the first gods of the world, born to shape and rule the realms of existence. The Age of the Titans. The Titans were immensely powerful, far greater than any being that had come before them. There were 12 in total, each with dominion over some force of the natural world. Among them were Cronus, the youngest and most cunning, who wielded the power of time; Oceanus, the god of the vast, encircling waters; Hyperion, the Titan of light, whose golden radiance illuminated the heavens; Rhea, the mother of future gods, a goddess of fertility and motherhood; Themis, the Titaness of divine law and order. With their arrival, the world became more structured. The rivers flowed under Oceanus's guidance, the stars burned bright under Hyperion's light, and the earth flourished with Rhea's touch. But despite their great power, the Titans were ruled by their father, Uranus, the sky, who feared them as much as he had created them. Uranus was cruel, keeping his children imprisoned deep within the earth, refusing to let them roam freely. Gaia, enraged by her husband's tyranny, plotted against him. She sought out her strongest child, Cronus, whispering to him in the shadows of the mountains. "My son," she said, "your father holds you in chains, denying you your birthright. Take this blade and free yourself from his grasp." Cronus, ambitious and hungry for power, took up a great scythe forged from the bones of the earth. As Uranus descended to embrace Gaia, Cronus struck, severing his father's power and casting him down forever. From Uranus's wounds, his spilled essence gave birth to the Furies, vengeful spirits of justice and punishment, as well as Aphrodite, the goddess of love, who arose from the sea foam. With Uranus defeated, Cronus declared himself the new ruler of the cosmos, claiming dominion over the heavens, the earth, and the seas. He freed his Titan siblings and established a golden age of prosperity, where the world flourished under their rule. Yet, even as Cronus took his throne, his father's final words echoed in his mind. "You will fall as I have fallen. One of your own children shall rise against you, and you shall be cast down." The Prophecy of the New Gods. Cronus, though powerful, was haunted by his father's curse. He took Rhea as his queen, and together they bore 6 children, each destined for greatness. Zeus, the youngest, full of storm and thunder; Poseidon, ruler of the seas and tides; Hades, lord of the underworld and the dead; Hestia, the goddess of the hearth and home; Demeter, the goddess of the harvest and nature's abundance; Hera, who would become the queen of the gods. But Cronus, fearing the prophecy, refused to let his children live. One by one, as they were born, he swallowed them whole, imprisoning them within his own body so they could never rise against him. Rhea, heartbroken, could not bear to see another child taken. When her youngest, Zeus, was born, she devised a plan. She wrapped a stone in swaddling cloths, passing it to Cronus, who swallowed it without question. Meanwhile, she hid Zeus away in a cave on the island of Crete, where he was raised in secret by nymphs and the goat goddess Amalthea. As Zeus grew, he became strong, wise, and fearless, preparing for the day he would fulfill the prophecy and challenge his father's reign. The Rise of the Olympians. When Zeus reached manhood, he sought the help of Metis, the Titaness of wisdom, who gave him a potion that would force Cronus to regurgitate his swallowed children. One by one, Zeus's siblings emerged, fully grown and ready for battle. Together, they waged war against the Titans, a conflict known as the Titanomachy. The battle raged for 10 years, shaking the very foundations of the cosmos. Mountains crumbled, oceans swelled, and the sky thundered as gods clashed. Zeus led the charge, wielding lightning forged by the Cyclopes. Poseidon unleashed waves that shattered the earth, and Hades donned a helmet of invisibility, striking from the shadows. In the end, the Olympians triumphed, casting the Titans into Tartarus, the abyss beneath the underworld, where they would remain imprisoned for eternity. With the Titans defeated, Zeus took his throne atop Mount Olympus, declaring a new age, the age of the Olympian gods. He divided the realms among his brothers. Zeus took the sky, ruling as the king of gods and men. Poseidon claimed the seas, shaping the tides and ruling the oceans. Hades ruled the underworld, watching over the souls of the dead. The world had changed forever, and from that moment on, the gods of Olympus would reign over the heavens, the earth, and all who dwelled within them. The golden age of the Titans had ended, and the rule of the Olympians had begun. A new era begins. As the last echoes of the battle faded, Mount Olympus stood tall, its golden halls gleaming in the sunlight. The gods, victorious, took their places, preparing to shape the destiny of mortals and immortals alike. But though the Titans had fallen, their influence lingered, and the world remained filled with wonder, danger, and endless adventure. This was only the beginning. Chapter 2. Zeus and the Rule of Mount Olympus. The battle against the Titans had ended, but the world was still in turmoil. The Olympian gods, victorious in their great war, stood at the dawn of a new age. High above the earth, atop the towering peak of Mount Olympus, they built their kingdom, a place of divine splendor, where clouds drifted through marble columns, golden palaces shimmered in the sunlight, and the voices of gods echoed through the halls of eternity. At the heart of this celestial realm, seated upon a throne of gold and ivory, Zeus, the king of the gods, ruled over all creation. He was the lord of the skies, the bringer of storms, the wielder of the mighty thunderbolt. His rule would shape the fate of mortals and immortals alike, defining the balance of power among the gods. But the victory of the Olympians did not mean peace. Even among the gods, rivalries burned, ambitions clashed, and the threads of fate wove an intricate story of triumph, betrayal, and destiny. The Olympian Order. Dividing the cosmos. Having claimed the throne of Olympus, Zeus faced his first great task, dividing the universe among his siblings, ensuring that the natural order remained in balance. To avoid a future conflict, the three most powerful gods, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, drew lots to determine their domains. Fate itself would decide which realm each god would rule. Zeus won the heavens and became ruler of the sky and king of the gods. He commanded the winds, the storms, and the thunder, ensuring order in the cosmos. Poseidon claimed the seas, ruling over the vast waters, the tides, and the creatures of the deep. He would wield his trident to stir the oceans and shape the fate of sailors. Hades took the underworld, becoming the lord of the dead and the ruler of the afterlife. He would govern the souls of mortals, ensuring that the cycle of life and death remained unbroken. Though the three brothers ruled separate realms, the earth itself belonged to all gods and mortals alike. But Zeus, as king, would have final authority over the world, a power that would soon be challenged. The challenge to Zeus's throne, the War of the Giants. Though the Titans had been defeated, not all who opposed Zeus were willing to accept his rule. Deep within the earth, Gaia, the mother of the Titans, grieved for her fallen children. Enraged by their imprisonment in Tartarus, she sought revenge. From the depths of the earth she bore a new race, the Gigantes, the mighty giants, beings of immense strength and fury. Unlike the Titans, these creatures were not immortal, but they possessed power beyond mortal comprehension. The giants rose up against Olympus, shaking the foundations of the heavens. They hurled mountains into the sky, raised great storms, and sought to overthrow the rule of Zeus and his kin. Thus began the Gigantomachy, the war between the Olympians and the giants. The battle raged across the cosmos, gods and giants clashing in an earth-shattering war. Zeus, wielding his thunderbolts, struck down many foes, while Poseidon drowned the giants in the sea. But the gods soon realized that they could not defeat the giants alone. A prophecy foretold that only a mortal could bring about their downfall. At Zeus's command, the greatest mortal hero of the age was called upon, Hercules, son of Zeus himself. Armed with a mighty bow, Hercules joined the gods in battle, striking down the giants one by one. With his arrows blessed by divine power, he delivered the final blow, ensuring the Olympians' ultimate victory. With the giants defeated, Zeus's rule was secured, but not for long. Zeus and the Great Betrayal, the Rebellion of Hera. Despite his might and wisdom, Zeus's reign was not without its challenges, even among his own family. His wife, Hera, the queen of the gods, harbored resentment toward him, angered by his many affairs and illegitimate children. Though she was the goddess of marriage and family, Zeus's infidelities often left her humiliated and vengeful. Determined to undermine his rule, Hera conspired with Poseidon, Athena, and Apollo to overthrow Zeus. They devised a daring plan. While Zeus slept, they crept into his chamber and bound him with unbreakable chains. Poseidon raised the sea, ensuring no god or mortal could aid him. Apollo took his throne, declaring that Zeus's rule was over. For a time, the king of the gods was powerless, imprisoned by his own kin. But Thetis, the sea nymph, took pity on him and summoned the 100-handed giant Briareus, who shattered the chains and freed Zeus. With his thunderbolts in hand, Zeus punished the traitors. Apollo was banished from Olympus and forced to serve as a mortal for a year. Poseidon was stripped of his power until he swore loyalty again. Hera, the mastermind, was bound in chains herself, hung from the heavens as punishment. But Zeus eventually released her, knowing that their conflict would never truly end. Though Zeus remained unchallenged, the cracks in Olympus had been revealed. Even gods could rebel. Even gods could betray. The rule of Zeus, the balance of power. Despite his flaws and arrogance, Zeus was a wise ruler, keeping the cosmos in balance. Under his rule, the gods found their places. Athena, goddess of wisdom, became his most trusted advisor. Hermes, the messenger god, acted as his diplomat and trickster. Aphrodite, the goddess of love, spread desire and beauty through the mortal world. Artemis and Apollo, twin deities of the hunt and the sun, roamed the earth in divine harmony. Zeus watched over mortals, but he did not rule them directly. Instead, he guided their fates through omens, dreams, and signs, ensuring that balance was kept between gods and men. Though he was the king of Olympus, Zeus knew that fate was more powerful than even the gods. Prophecies whispered of a time when his own rule might come to an end, and so he remained ever watchful, ever powerful, and ever prepared. The Olympians reigned supreme, their thrones high above the world, but the myths of the gods were far from over. A new chapter begins. With Olympus secure, the gods turned their attention to the world below, to the affairs of mortals, the rise of heroes, and the great adventures that would shape history. From the trials of Prometheus to the love and tragedy of Orpheus, the gods would continue to weave their influence into the lives of men. And as you drift deeper into sleep, the stories of Olympus carry on, whispered in the winds, etched in the stars, and remembered in the dreams of those who listen. Chapter 3. The Legend of Prometheus and the Gift of Fire. In the dawn of the age of the Olympians, after Zeus had claimed his throne and the Titans had been cast into Tartarus, the world was still new and untamed. The heavens belonged to the gods, the seas to Poseidon, and the underworld to Hades. But there was one creation still incomplete: mankind. The gods had shaped the mountains, rivers, and forests, but humans were weak, helpless, and cold. Unlike the mighty gods or even the wild beasts of the earth, they had no claws, no fangs, no fur to shield them from the elements. They stumbled through the world in darkness, at the mercy of the winds, the storms, and the beasts that prowled the land. Among the immortals, one god took pity on them: Prometheus, the Titan of forethought, who had once fought alongside Zeus against his own kin, the Titans. He was a being of great intelligence, a trickster and a teacher, one who could see the future and consequences before they unfolded. He looked upon mortals and saw their potential, but he also saw their suffering. And so, Prometheus made a choice that would forever change the fate of mankind and seal his own doom. The first gift: molding mankind from clay. Before fire could be given, mankind needed form and purpose. Prometheus and his brother Epimetheus were tasked with shaping the creatures of the world and gifting them with skills and traits to survive. To the birds, they gave wings to soar through the skies. To the wolves, they gave sharp teeth and keen senses. To the deer, they gave speed to flee from danger. But when it came to humans, there was nothing left to give. They were naked, weak, and defenseless, left to wander the world at the mercy of the elements. Seeing their fragility, Prometheus took it upon himself to shape mankind from clay, molding them in the image of the gods, standing upright, with intelligence beyond any other creature. Yet, Intelligence alone was not enough. Without fire, without knowledge, they could not survive. Prometheus pleaded with Zeus, asking him to share divine fire with mortals so they might warm themselves, cook their food, forge tools, and build great civilizations. But Zeus refused. Zeus's decree: fire shall belong to the gods alone. To Zeus, fire was not just warmth and light. It was power. It was the spark of creation, the essence of the gods themselves. To give it to mortals would be to make them dangerous, to give them independence and strength beyond what they were meant to have. The fire of Olympus is for the gods alone, Zeus declared. Mankind must know their place beneath us. And so, the world remained dark and cold, and mankind struggled in ignorance and hardship. But Prometheus would not stand by and watch as mortals suffered. If Zeus would not give them fire, then he would steal it. The theft of fire. Under the cover of darkness, as the gods feasted in the halls of Olympus, Prometheus crept through the heavens, unseen. He climbed the great heights of Mount Olympus, where the sacred flames burned eternally, lighting the halls of the gods. Taking a hollow reed, he reached into the heart of Helios's chariot, where the purest fire burned, and he trapped its essence within the reed. The golden flame flickered inside, hidden from the sight of the gods. With the stolen fire in hand, Prometheus descended from Olympus, moving swiftly across the land and sea until he reached the mortal world. He opened his hands, releasing the gift of fire to humanity, and, for the first time, the flames of knowledge and power burned in the hands of men. The world was forever changed. Fire lit the darkness, bringing warmth and safety. Flames turned raw meat into food, strengthening bodies. With fire, tools could be forged, homes could be built, weapons could be crafted. With knowledge came civilization, progress, and independence from the gods. The gift of Prometheus had elevated mankind, making them masters of their own fate. But Zeus's wrath would be terrible. The wrath of Zeus, the eternal punishment. When Zeus looked down upon the earth and saw the fires burning in every village, he knew what had been done. His anger shook the heavens, his thunderbolts cracked the sky, and he called for Prometheus to be seized. The Titan was brought before Zeus, bound in unbreakable chains. "You have defied me," Zeus thundered. "You have given power to those who were meant to kneel." Prometheus did not bow, even before the might of the king of the gods. He held his head high, for he knew that fire had made mankind strong, and no punishment could take that away. But Zeus was merciless. He ordered Prometheus to be taken to the highest peak of the Caucasus Mountains, where he would suffer for all eternity. Prometheus was bound to a great rock, unbreakable chains holding him fast. Each day an eagle, Zeus's sacred bird, would descend upon him, tearing into his flesh and devouring his liver. Each night his wounds would heal, only for the torment to begin anew at dawn. This punishment lasted for centuries, the Titan's agony stretching across the ages. Yet, even as he suffered, Prometheus never regretted his gift. He had given mankind hope, and no torment could undo that. The unexpected rescue. For generations, Prometheus endured his suffering, but fate had not forgotten him. One day, a great hero arrived at the mountain's peak, Hercules, the son of Zeus, in the midst of his legendary 12 labors. Seeing the suffering Titan, Hercules pitied him. With his great strength, he shattered the chains that bound Prometheus to the rock, driving away the eagle once and for all. Though Zeus was angered, he allowed Prometheus to walk free, for the Titan's torment had already lasted beyond measure. Prometheus, now freed, never returned to Olympus. Instead, he wandered the world, watching as mankind grew and flourished, their civilizations rising higher with each passing age. The fire he had stolen continued to burn, not just in the hearths of men, but in their hearts, their minds, and their ambitions. It was a flame that would never die, carrying forward the gift of knowledge for all time. The Legacy of Prometheus. Prometheus's act of defiance had forever changed the course of history. Because of him, mankind was no longer at the mercy of the gods. Fire had given them power, wisdom, and freedom, lifting them beyond the creatures of the wild. But with this gift came responsibility. The same fire that warmed homes and forged tools could also be a weapon of destruction. Zeus's warning had not been without truth. Power in the hands of mortals was both a blessing and a danger. Even now, as the ancient flames flicker in the darkness, Prometheus's lesson remains. Knowledge is the greatest gift, but it must be wielded wisely. Chapter 3. The Legend of Prometheus and the Gift of Fire. In the dawn of the age of the Olympians, after Zeus had claimed his throne and the Titans had been cast into Tartarus, the world was still new and untamed. The heavens belonged to the gods, the seas to Poseidon, and the underworld to Hades. But there was one creation still incomplete: mankind. The gods had shaped the mountains, rivers, and forests, but humans were weak, helpless, and cold. Unlike the mighty gods or even the wild beasts of the earth, they had no claws, no fangs, no fur to shield them from the elements. They stumbled through the world in darkness, at the mercy of the winds, the storms, and the beasts that prowled the land. Among the immortals, one god took pity on them: Prometheus, the Titan of forethought, who had once fought alongside Zeus against his own kin, the Titans. He was a being of great intelligence, a trickster and a teacher, one who could see the future and consequences before they unfolded. He looked upon mortals and saw their potential, but he also saw their suffering. And so, Prometheus made a choice that would forever change the fate of mankind, and seal his own doom. The first gift: molding mankind from clay. Before fire could be given, mankind needed form and purpose. Prometheus and his brother Epimetheus were tasked with shaping the creatures of the world and gifting them with skills and traits to survive. To the birds, they gave wings to soar through the skies. To the wolves, they gave sharp teeth and keen senses. To the deer, they gave speed to flee from danger. But when it came to humans, there was nothing left to give. They were naked, weak, and defenseless, left to wander the world at the mercy of the elements. Seeing their fragility, Prometheus took it upon himself to shape mankind from clay, molding them in the image of the gods, standing upright, with intelligence beyond any other creature. Yet, intelligence alone was not enough. Without fire, without knowledge, they could not survive. Prometheus pleaded with Zeus, asking him to share divine fire with mortals so they might warm themselves, cook their food, forge tools, and build great civilizations. But Zeus refused. Zeus's decree: fire shall belong to the gods alone. To Zeus, fire was not just warmth and light, it was power. It was the spark of creation, the essence of the gods themselves. To give it to mortals would be to make them dangerous, to give them independence and strength beyond what they were meant to have. "The fire of Olympus is for the gods alone," Zeus declared. "Mankind must know their place beneath us." And so, the world remained dark and cold, and mankind struggled in ignorance and hardship. But Prometheus would not stand by and watch as mortals suffered. If Zeus would not give them fire, then he would steal it. The theft of fire. Under the cover of darkness, as the gods feasted in the halls of Olympus, Prometheus crept through the heavens, unseen. He climbed the great heights of Mount Olympus, where the sacred flames burned eternally, lighting the halls of the gods. Taking a hollow reed, he reached into the heart of Helios's chariot, where the purest fire burned, and he trapped its essence within the reed. The golden flame flickered inside, hidden from the sight of the gods. With the stolen fire in hand, Prometheus descended from Olympus, moving swiftly across the land and sea until he reached the mortal world. He opened his hands, releasing the gift of fire to humanity, and, for the first time, the flames of knowledge and power burned in the hands of men. The world was forever changed. Fire lit the darkness, bringing warmth and safety. Flames turned raw meat into food, strengthening bodies. With fire, tools could be forged, homes could be built, weapons could be crafted. With knowledge came civilization, progress, and independence from the gods. The gift of Prometheus had elevated mankind, making them masters of their own fate. But Zeus's wrath would be terrible. The wrath of Zeus, the eternal punishment. When Zeus looked down upon the earth and saw the fires burning in every village, he knew what had been done. His anger shook the heavens, his thunderbolts cracked the sky, and he called for Prometheus to be seized. The Titan was brought before Zeus, bound in unbreakable chains. "You have defied me," Zeus thundered. "You have given power to those who were meant to kneel." Prometheus did not bow, even before the might of the king of the gods. He held his head high, for he knew that fire had made mankind strong, and no punishment could take that away. But Zeus was merciless. He ordered Prometheus to be taken to the highest peak of the Caucasus Mountains, where he would suffer for all eternity. Prometheus was bound to a great rock, unbreakable chains holding him fast. Each day, an eagle, Zeus's sacred bird, would descend upon him, tearing into his flesh and devouring his liver. Each night, his wounds would heal, only for the torment to begin anew at dawn. This punishment lasted for centuries, the Titan's agony stretching across the ages. Yet, even as he suffered, Prometheus never regretted his gift. He had given mankind hope, and no torment could undo that. The unexpected rescue. For generations, Prometheus endured his suffering, but fate had not forgotten him. One day, a great hero arrived at the mountain's peak, Hercules, the son of Zeus, in the midst of his legendary 12 labors. Seeing the suffering Titan, Hercules pitied him. With his great strength, he shattered the chains that bound Prometheus to the rock, driving away the eagle once and for all. Though Zeus was angered, he allowed Prometheus to walk free, for the Titan's torment had already lasted beyond measure. Prometheus, now freed, never returned to Olympus. Instead, he wandered the world, watching as mankind grew and flourished, their civilizations rising higher with each passing age. The fire he had stolen continued to burn, not just in the hearths of men, but in their hearts, their minds, and their ambitions. It was a flame that would never die, carrying forward the gift of knowledge for all time. The legacy of Prometheus. Prometheus's act of defiance had forever changed the course of history. Because of him, mankind was no longer at the mercy of the gods. Fire had given them power, wisdom, and freedom, lifting them beyond the creatures of the wild. But with this gift came responsibility. The same fire that warmed homes and forged tools could also be a weapon of destruction. Zeus's warning had not been without truth. Power in the hands of mortals was both a blessing and a danger. Even now, as the ancient flames flicker in the darkness, Prometheus's lesson remains. Knowledge is the greatest gift, but it must be wielded wisely. Chapter 4. The Trials of Hercules, the 12 Labors. The gods of Olympus ruled the heavens, but their influence extended far beyond the realm of immortals. Time and again, their actions shaped the fates of mortals, entwining divine will with human destiny. Among all the mortal heroes who ever walked the earth, none were as strong, enduring, or legendary as Hercules, the greatest of all Greek heroes. Born of Zeus and a mortal woman, Hercules was destined for greatness, but his life was marked by both glory and suffering. To atone for a terrible crime, he was condemned to perform 12 impossible labors, each meant to break him, to test his limits, and to prove whether he was worthy of godhood. Tonight, as the stars shimmer above and the echoes of ancient myths drift through the air, we recount the legend of Hercules and his 12 labors, a journey of strength, resilience, and redemption. The birth and curse of Hercules. Hercules was born to Zeus and Alcmene, a mortal woman of great beauty. But his birth ignited the jealous wrath of Hera, Zeus's wife and the queen of the gods. Hera despised Hercules from the moment he was born, for he was proof of Zeus's infidelity. From his infancy, she sought to destroy him. While still in his crib, Hera sent 2 serpents to strangle the infant. But the baby Hercules, even in his innocence, showed his great strength, grabbing the snakes and crushing them with his tiny hands. Though he survived, Hera never relented. As Hercules grew into a man, her hatred twisted his fate. Struck by a divine madness, he was driven to an unspeakable act, slaying his own wife and children, unaware of his actions. When his mind cleared, he was consumed by grief and horror. Seeking redemption, he turned to the oracle of Delphi, who declared that only one path remained. He must serve King Eurystheus and complete 12 labors, tasks so impossible that even the gods themselves would hesitate to face them. Thus began the greatest trials ever undertaken by a mortal. The 12 Labors of Hercules. 1. The Nemean lion, slaying the beast with impenetrable skin. The first labor took Hercules to the hills of Nemea, where a monstrous lion terrorized the land. This was no ordinary beast. Its golden hide was so thick and unbreakable that no sword or spear could pierce it. After a fierce battle, Hercules realized his weapons were useless. Instead, he fought the lion with his bare hands, wrestling it to the ground and choking the life from it. He skinned the beast with its own claws and wore the impenetrable pelt as armor, a symbol of his strength. 2. The Lernaean Hydra, battling the serpent of many heads. In the swamps of Lerna, a monstrous hydra lurked, a venomous serpent with multiple heads, each more deadly than the last. Worse yet, for every head Hercules cut off, 2 more grew in its place. Realizing brute strength alone would not suffice, Hercules enlisted the help of his nephew, Iolaus. As Hercules sliced off each head, Iolaus burned the wound with fire, preventing new heads from growing. Finally, Hercules buried the immortal head beneath a massive rock, ensuring the beast would never rise again. But Hera, ever vengeful, declared that because he had received help, this labor would not count toward his 12. 3. The Ceryneian Hind, catching the sacred stag of Artemis. The next trial demanded that Hercules capture the golden stag of Artemis, a creature so swift no hunter had ever caught it. For a year, Hercules pursued the stag through mountains and forests, never resting. Finally, when the creature stopped to drink, he gently ensnared it, careful not to harm the sacred beast. Upon returning to King Eurystheus, he released the stag, honoring the goddess Artemis. 4. The Erymanthian Boar, subduing the beast of the wilds. Next, Hercules faced a giant boar, a creature that ravaged the land and struck fear into all who crossed its path. Using his great strength, he drove the beast into deep snow, slowing it down. He overpowered it and carried it back to Eurystheus, who was so terrified that he hid in a jar. 5. The Augean Stables, cleansing the filth of a lifetime. For his next labor, Hercules was tasked with cleaning the massive stables of King Augeas, which housed thousands of cattle and had not been cleaned in decades. The sheer stench and filth made this task seem impossible. Instead of shoveling, Hercules diverted 2 mighty rivers, flooding the stables and washing away the waste in a single day. But since Hercules demanded payment, Eurystheus refused to count the labor, forcing him to complete an extra task. 6. The Stymphalian Birds, driving away the man-eating flock. The land of Stymphalia was plagued by terrifying birds, whose metallic feathers could pierce armor and who feasted on flesh. Hercules used a rattle, gifted by Athena, to startle them into flight. As they took to the sky, he shot them down with his bow. 7. The Cretan Bull, taming the beast of Poseidon. A mighty bull, sacred to Poseidon, was rampaging through Crete. Hercules wrestled the beast into submission and brought it back alive. 8. The Mares of Diomedes, capturing the man-eating horses. The Thracian king. Diomedes kept flesh-eating horses, which he fed with the bodies of his enemies. Hercules slew Diomedes and tamed the beasts by feeding them their own master. 9. The belt of Hippolyta confronting the Amazon queen. Hippolyta, queen of the Amazons, possessed a magical belt that Hercules was ordered to retrieve. The mission almost ended in peace, but Hera stirred conflict, causing a battle. Hercules overpowered the warriors and took the belt. 10. The Cattle of Geryon, stealing the herd of the giant. A monstrous 3-bodied giant named Geryon owned a sacred herd. Hercules slew him and drove the cattle back to Eurystheus. 11. The golden apples of the Hesperides, stealing the fruit of the gods. Zeus's garden held golden apples, guarded by the Hesperides nymphs and the dragon Ladon. Hercules tricked the Titan Atlas into retrieving the apples for him. He then used his wit to escape Atlas's attempt to trap him. 12. The capture of Cerberus, facing the guardian of the underworld. For his final trial, Hercules descended into Hades's domain and wrestled Cerberus, the three-headed hound of the underworld. With sheer strength, he subdued the beast and brought it to the surface. With this final labor complete, Hercules was free. His trials had earned him immortality, and in time he would take his place among the gods on Olympus. Chapter 5. The story of Persephone and Hades. The seasons of the earth. The world of the Greek gods was not only ruled by thunder and war, but also by love, loss, and fate. Among all the myths of ancient Greece, few are as mystical, bittersweet, and eternal as the tale of Persephone and Hades, a story that explains the cycle of the seasons, the balance between life and death, and the endless bond between mother and daughter. Tonight, we journey into the underworld, where shadows stretch long and deep, where rivers of mist flow silently through the darkness, and where a queen reigns over the souls of the departed, a goddess who walks between two worlds, forever caught between the embrace of her mother, Demeter, and her husband, Hades. This is the legend of Persephone. Persephone, the goddess of spring. Long ago, before the time of mortals, the world was lush and endlessly fertile. Flowers bloomed in every season, crops never withered, and the land remained warm and bright beneath the golden light of Helios, the sun Titan. At the heart of this everlasting spring stood Persephone, the radiant daughter of Demeter, the goddess of the harvest. Persephone embodied youth, renewal, and the very essence of nature itself. She walked among meadows of wildflowers, her laughter carried by the wind, her touch bringing life to trees, blossoms, and golden fields of wheat. Wherever she wandered, the land flourished. But beneath the surface of the world, deep within the shadows of the earth, there was another realm, a place where light did not reach, where the spirits of the dead roamed the halls of eternity. This was the underworld, ruled by Hades, the god of the dead. Though Hades was powerful, he ruled alone, sitting upon a throne of obsidian and bone in a kingdom of silent echoes. His realm was vast, yet empty of warmth, empty of companionship. He watched as the other gods took consorts, as Zeus ruled from Olympus with Hera, as Poseidon ruled the seas, and he grew weary of the loneliness that stretched through the eons. It was then that he saw Persephone, a being of light, of warmth, of beauty unlike anything his realm had ever known. And at that moment, Hades's fate was sealed. He would have her as his queen. The abduction of Persephone. One fateful day, as Persephone gathered flowers in the fields of Nysa, the ground beneath her began to tremble. A deep rumbling shook the land, and before she could react, the earth split open, revealing a chasm of endless darkness. From this gaping void, Hades himself emerged, riding a chariot of black horses cloaked in shadows. Before she could cry out, he seized her, pulling her into his chariot. The ground closed above them, and the light of the world disappeared. Persephone was taken beneath the earth, into the depths of the underworld. All around her the air grew cold and heavy, the warmth of the sun fading as she descended into the kingdom of the dead. In the darkness, Hades spoke, his voice both commanding and solemn. "Do not be afraid, Persephone. You shall be my queen, ruling beside me for all eternity." But Persephone did not wish to stay. She longed for the open sky, for the fields of flowers, for the comforting embrace of her mother, Demeter. And, on the surface of the world, Demeter's grief shook the heavens themselves. The grief of Demeter, a world in darkness. When Demeter discovered that her daughter was gone, she searched the world in despair. She wandered across the lands, the mountains, and the seas, calling out for Persephone. But there was no answer, only silence. Days turned to weeks, and her sorrow grew into anger. In her grief, she cursed the earth itself, refusing to let anything grow. The trees lost their leaves, and the flowers wilted. The fields turned barren, and the rivers ran dry. Famine swept across the land, and mortals began to perish. Even the gods on Olympus grew concerned, for without Demeter's blessing, the earth could not survive. Seeing the devastation, Zeus intervened. He sent Hermes, the swift messenger, to the underworld, demanding that Hades release Persephone. But Hades was cunning. He knew the laws of the underworld well. Anyone who ate food from his realm could never fully return to the world above. And so, before Persephone could leave, he offered her a single pomegranate, its seeds red as blood. Hunger gnawed at her after months in the underworld, and though she longed for home, she ate 6 seeds, sealing her fate. When Hermes arrived, Hades did not refuse to let Persephone go, but he revealed the truth. "She has eaten the fruit of the underworld," Hades declared. "She may return to her mother, but she can never be free of this realm." A compromise was struck. For 6 months of the year, Persephone would live on Olympus, reunited with Demeter. For the other 6 months, she would return to Hades as queen of the underworld. And so, the balance of the world was set. The cycle of the seasons. Each year, when Persephone returned to the world above, Demeter rejoiced, and the earth bloomed with new life. This was spring, the season of renewal and warmth, a celebration of mother and daughter reunited. But when Persephone descended once more, the world grew cold, the land withered, and the fields lay barren. This was winter, a time of mourning and stillness, as Demeter waited for her daughter's return. Thus, the seasons were born, the endless cycle of life, death, and rebirth, mirroring Persephone's journey between 2 worlds. She was no longer just the goddess of spring, but also the queen of the dead, ruling beside Hades with a quiet strength. She was the bridge between light and shadow, between life and the afterlife, forever caught between 2 destinies. The legacy of Persephone. Even now, as the earth turns and the seasons change, the story of Persephone lingers in the rustling leaves, in the first blossoms of spring, in the whispering winds of autumn. Her myth reminds us that life and death are entwined, that even in the darkest times, light will return. And so, as the world drifts into the hush of night, the tale of Persephone continues, carried on the breath of time, a reminder of the eternal dance between light and shadow, warmth and cold, love and loss. Chapter 6. the tragedy of Orpheus and Eurydice, love and the underworld. In the grand halls of Mount Olympus, where the gods feasted and the stars burned bright, there were many tales of great warriors, mighty rulers, and battles that shook the heavens. But not all myths were tales of war and conquest. Some were softer, more sorrowful, stories of love so deep that it defied even death itself. Among all the poets, musicians, and storytellers of ancient Greece, none was as gifted as Orpheus, whose music could charm the wild beasts, calm the raging seas, and even move the hearts of the gods. His lyre, a gift from Apollo, produced melodies so beautiful that even the trees leaned in to listen, and the rivers slowed their course to hear his song. But Orpheus's greatest song was not one of glory or triumph. It was a lament, a sorrowful tune played in the deepest chambers of the underworld, where no mortal was meant to go. It was a song for Eurydice, his lost love, stolen away by fate too soon. This is the story of Orpheus and Eurydice, the tale of a love so strong that it dared to challenge death itself. The love of Orpheus and Eurydice. Orpheus was not a warrior, nor a king, nor a god. He was a poet, a musician, and a dreamer, and his heart belonged to Eurydice, a maiden of exceptional beauty and grace. She was a nymph, a child of nature, a spirit of the forests and the fields. Orpheus loved her beyond reason, beyond measure, beyond the bounds of mortality, and she loved him in return, drawn to his music, to the way his songs made the world shimmer like sunlight upon water. Together they were inseparable, and soon they were wed in a ceremony filled with laughter, song, and the blessings of the gods. The world rejoiced in their happiness. But happiness, even in myth, is often fleeting. The death of Eurydice. Not long after their wedding, as Eurydice wandered through a meadow in bloom, tragedy struck. A viper, hidden in the grass, struck at her heel. Venom coursed through her veins, stealing the warmth from her body. Before Orpheus could reach her, she had fallen, her breath leaving her in a whisper. She was gone. The joy of their love had lasted only moments in the span of eternity, and just as suddenly as she had entered his life, she was taken away. Her soul drifted down into the underworld, where all mortals must go, leaving Orpheus alone in silence. But silence was not something Orpheus could accept. He had lost her to death, but he would not lose her to forgetfulness. And so, with nothing but his lyre and his voice, he set out to do the impossible, to descend into the underworld and bring back his beloved. The descent into the underworld. No living mortal had ever entered the realm of the dead and returned. The underworld was a place of shadows and silence, where souls drifted like mist, where the air was thick with sorrow. It was ruled by Hades, the god of the dead, and Persephone, his queen, and no soul had ever been granted passage back to the world above. But Orpheus did not falter. He walked the dark path that no mortal had walked before, crossing the threshold between life and death. He passed the river Styx, where Charon, the ferryman of souls, looked upon him with astonishment. He played his lyre, and even the ancient boatman, who had seen countless souls pass into the abyss, was moved to grant him passage. In the depths of the underworld, he met Cerberus, the three-headed hound, a guardian of fury and flame. But at the sound of Orpheus's music, the great beast lowered its heads, listening, whimpering, falling into a slumber it had never known. Through the fields of the dead he walked, and everywhere his music brought light to the darkness. The plea to Hades and Persephone. At last he reached the throne room of Hades, where the ruler of the dead sat in his seat of shadow, his queen Persephone beside him. No mortal had ever stood before them like this, alive and unafraid. Orpheus did not bow, did not tremble. He simply played. He played a song of longing and sorrow, of love lost and found, of the ache of absence and the sweetness of memory. He sang of Eurydice, of her laughter, of their fleeting happiness, of his unbearable grief. The walls of the underworld trembled. The spirits of the dead wept. Even Hades himself, unmoved by time, felt the weight of his song. At last, Persephone, the goddess who understood loss better than any, turned to her husband. "Let her go," she whispered. "Love this true should not be parted by death." Hades considered, his dark gaze unreadable. Then he spoke. "You may take her," he said, "but on one condition." Orpheus could lead Eurydice back to the world above, but he must not look back, not until they both reached the surface. If he did, if he doubted for even a moment, she would be lost to him forever. With his heart pounding, he accepted the bargain. The ascent, the final test. Hand in hand, Orpheus led Eurydice through the twisting paths of the underworld, their steps echoing in the silence. They passed the river Styx, where Charon's boat waited in the mist. They walked through the shadowed caverns, where lost souls drifted like smoke. The weight of death pressed behind them, urging them forward. The path was long. Orpheus could not hear Eurydice's footsteps behind him, could not feel her warmth. Doubt crept in. Had Hades tricked him? Was Eurydice really there, or had she been stolen away again? The mouth of the cave loomed ahead. He was almost there. The world of the living was only steps away. And then, in a moment of fear, of longing, of weakness, he turned. The eternal loss of Eurydice. For a single heartbeat, he saw her, beautiful, sorrowful, reaching for him. But the bargain was broken. In an instant, Eurydice was pulled back into the darkness, her final words nothing more than a whisper. Orpheus lunged after her, but it was too late. The underworld had claimed her once more. The Lament of Orpheus. Orpheus did not return to the world in triumph, but in grief. He wandered alone, playing his lyre, but his songs were now only of loss. He never loved again, never sought another, for his heart belonged to Eurydice. In time, the gods took pity on him, and he was reunited with her in death. Together, at last, their souls found peace. Even now it is said that his song lingers in the wind, carried through time, a melody of love, loss, and longing. And as you drift into sleep, listen carefully. You may hear the echo of Orpheus's lyre, still playing in the quiet of the night.